So on May the 31st, it's the Feast of the Visitation. And this is a good opportunity to talk, as that feast is drawing close, about a presentation for the Visitation. There are various booklets relating to this, and they fall at different times of the year. For example, in year 2, I think it is, for the program that I am preparing for people, it falls around Advent time as well. And probably in most grades, one would be touching perhaps on the Visitation during Advent in one way or another. So this is the presentation for the Visitation. The key concept is this. The angel Gabriel told Mary that her cousin Elizabeth would also have a child. This child, John, would prepare people to receive Jesus in their hearts. Now, the key concepts, as I've mentioned before, are guiding the teacher. They're also fairly simple because we're thinking of little children or primary school children, and one needs to be able to express the things or have clearly in one's mind the simple concept expressed fairly simply. So sometimes these concepts are taken literally from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Other times it's a bit of a simplified explanation so that the teacher can have it very clearly in the mind what it is that we're trying to bring children into an understanding of. The materials that are needed are the Visitation diorama. Well, this is the box for the diorama. And you'll notice this particular box has a few images on the front because it also covers the birth of John. So there are images related to the birth of John and figurines inside the box related to the birth of John. And the images here are the focus on Zechariah, with the angel speaking to Zechariah in the temple, the moment of the Visitation itself in the central place here, and over on the other side, the other corner, is Zechariah when he's writing down his name is John. So it's a conversation piece. We have the setup. In this particular case, I have got the actual countryside around Ain Karim, which seems to be the place that traditionally is understood to be the place of Elizabeth's home. And that's actually a photograph. If you look at it very closely, you'll see images that don't quite fit in the time because they weren't there at the time. But it's still fairly good to depict the countryside at the time. We've got Mary already starting out on her journey here. And at the other end, we have an image that will do for Elizabeth's house, the outside of the house. The image is a fairly well-to-do house, a garden area, a pathway. Doesn't have to be that way, but these are the diorama backdrops we tend to use. Then we also need to refer to a map of Israel. It could be the raised map of Israel, which I do have, or this, to draw the children's attention to the place and the space where things happened and the distances. So in this case, I've removed all the other magnets and just left on a few magnets relating. We don't actually have the name of the place in the Bible where Elizabeth lived. It was in the mountain area close to Jerusalem. So we just have the Jerusalem indicator magnet. We can talk about that. It's in the region of Judea. And Mary has come from all the way from Nazareth, and that is in Galilee. So the children will enjoy working with that too, and you show them that at the beginning to put the situation in its place. So I'll just begin the presentation now as though you are the children. You'll remember that the angel visited Mary, and the angel told her that her cousin Elizabeth was also going to have a child. Mary soon went to visit her. It would have taken several days, since they lived far from each other, as I've just shown you. Here are the words from the Bible. During those days, Mary set out and travelled to the hill country in haste to a town of Judah. Where she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the infant leapt in her womb. And Elizabeth, filled with the Holy Spirit, cried out in a loud voice and said, "Most blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. How does this happen to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? For the moment the sound of your greeting reached my ears, the infant in my womb leapt for joy." Blessed are you who believed that what was spoken to you by the Lord would be fulfilled. And Mary said, "My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Saviour, for he has looked upon his handmaid's loneliness. Behold, from now on all generations will call me blessed. The Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name." I wonder what Elizabeth meant when she said that Mary was blessed among all women. And I wonder what Mary meant when she said, "From now on, all generations will call me blessed." I wonder why Elizabeth's baby leaped inside of her. Now, the children may also have their own I wonder questions, and it's good to have an ear for them, to listen to them, to validate the value of their own I wonder questions. I've presented all one after the other, but of course there's a pause and there's time to either think quietly, and then maybe the children will respond more or less. We just have to see what happens. It's a very organic moment. So then we put out the candle. Now, thinking a little bit about follow-up from that presentation, there are various things that one can do, and I'm just going to present a few ideas here. For that, I think I might move this aside. Right, here we go. Always, I love to introduce beautiful images to children, and I've got a variety here that could be very helpful for them. There's this one. Now, this is a painting by Giotto, as you may well know. It's actually a close-up of a bigger image, and you can see there Elizabeth is significantly older than Mary. And one could make observations about that, simply appreciate it, think about what the symbolism of the colorings might be. Why is Mary, with her coloring and her detail, and likewise Elizabeth, they may come up with things. They can do a little bit of research if they're older. Another thing that children can do with an image like this, it lends itself to tracing and then colouring their own image, if they would like to do that. This one's not a very big picture, but still, it's a very much one that we may have seen around, of the Visitation with Mary and Elizabeth, and in this case, Zechariah and St. Joseph as well. We don't actually know if St. Joseph was there because it's not mentioned in the Bible, but traditionally, many times people have taken the step of interpreting that he was present. And he may have been, although we can't say for sure. It's good to know about these things, to have that bit of firm knowledge so that we know the difference between what's kind of become a traditional thinking without a capital T for tradition and what is a possible event. Now here's an interesting thing that one can do. Here's another image of Mary greeting Elizabeth. Again, talking points regarding the colours, etc., and just noticing what's going on in that picture. They may want to think about what halos are about, for example, with a number of these images. But why I'm saying this is particularly interesting is because of this. You can see that this is 2 on 1 page to make it useful, but it's an image I managed to find, and I'm grateful for the person who did this, but it's available out there on the internet. And it's a smaller version that I've printed on a smaller version, but then it can be coloured in by the children. It makes a nice activity looking at the original image colourings and trying to replicate it. And all of that's valuable time for pondering. And another one here. There are so many images, so many different images. And there are interesting things to think about here. The lady at the side is holding a pair of shoes, probably indicating that this is holy ground and a holy thing is happening. The angels are in the air there. Of course, they weren't visibly present at the moment, but they're depicted as being present and are given a physical form. And then we could go on, but here's a couple of that I really love. I love it when we have this happening. Let me put this aside so you can see clearly. It's an icon. And in this icon we have Mary and Elizabeth. And there's so much that can be thought about. We have Jesus and John inside. We have Jesus and John in the wombs of Mary and Elizabeth, and there's a lot of interesting conversation that can happen around that. How can you tell the difference between the two children, for example? And lastly, there's this other image, again, of Mary and Elizabeth, same thing happening, where the children are visibly present over the womb painted over the wombs of Mary and Elizabeth. And I find children really do love this interesting presentation of the Visitation. Now, another thing that one can think about doing, of course, the children can simply draw pictures, they can annotate them, etc. But I will share with you this. I will share this with you, fully acknowledging where it comes from, because that's very important. But there is a website called www.freebibleimages.org. And on this website, many Christians have put their materials up for free. The only thing is to always acknowledge their work, and I always would take care of, when you're presenting that as an option for children, that you have the front page and the back page as a part of what you print off, to fully acknowledge where it's coming from. It's totally free, and there are many, many parts of the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, by many different artists, some modern, some filmic, etc. You're going to see a couple in this video clip, but this one is, I tend to pick ones I'm particularly happy with and comfortable with it, but there are a variety. This is one for the Mary Visits Elizabeth, it's called, and it takes you through the story. Now, children can have these images, perhaps on card or laminated for durability, and it can be a story sequence. And they can retell the story through this. And I think it's wonderful to kind of access the great things that are out there for all of us to share and use, with the due acknowledgements. A moment of the Magnificat. Now, if you go into the website, you can download these things in different ways. You can make a slideshow of it. You can make printouts, as this is. You can also have what it's called the story plan, and that's got the images in small, and on the other side there are the words explaining the moment. If you print those out and cut them out, you've got a matching activity, which children really enjoy to do as well.